Namaste Yogis. Welcome and well done for making it to the fourth and final part of our journey towards Hanumanasana, or monkey pose, as it's known because Hanuman is the monkey lord, lord of the monkeys. Okay, so today we need most of our props. We need 2 blocks or similar shaped books. You can improvise. A belt, so it doesn't have to be a yoga belt, it can be a dressing gown belt. If you do have a bolster, a yoga bolster, you might want to have that for the final part of the class, but that is optional. Okay, so we'll get moving as always. Just place these to one side for now. So first of all, we do need our belt. Okay, so just unwind the belt, have that ready. Lying down. Let's just take a nice big inhale and raise the arms up, a nice full body stretch. Good. And as we exhale, bring your right knee in towards your chest. Hug that knee in. See how that feels. Try to release that right hip crease down so it's not lifted. And then we'll come into a supine twist. So extend your right arm out. The left hand is on the outer edge of the right knee. We exhale and carefully drop that right knee over towards the left. And then we can look back over the right shoulder. We're trying to keep the right shoulder on the floor. And it doesn't matter at all if that right knee doesn't come all the way down to the floor, because we're just starting. So, don't force yourself into anything. Okay, then release. Bring that right knee back to the chest. We're coming into a half happy baby pose here. So you take your right arm, reach it down through the inside of that right leg, and then you can reach the hand to reach the outer edge of the right foot. And then the right knee aims up towards the area of the right shoulder. We're flexing the right foot, seeing how that feels. It's opening the front of the hip flexors on the right leg. Good. Okay, and then just release slightly so you can reach for the belt. Take your belt, loop it around the sole of the right foot, and then we start to extend that right leg up, and depending on how your leg, the back of the hamstrings are feeling, you can have the belt quite long, so you can really push the foot up into the belt. If you're already more open, you can walk the hand up the belt. But the key is you don't have to lock the back of the knee, but we want that leg straight, so you're really getting a hamstring stretch, and you're really flexing the foot, pushing the foot, all of the foot up into the belt. The shoulders are releasing into the floor. The right hip is on the floor. If you are already quite open, you can maybe just release the belt and take the first 2 fingers around the big toe. But it's not a competition, we're all working at different levels, so choose your level. Good. And then carefully bend the right leg. Place the belt over to the left side, ready for the next side. So again, let's inhale, raise the arms up, full body stretch. As we exhale, release the arms, bring the left knee into the chest. Hug that knee in, see how that feels. Try to stabilise the pelvis. Just look up, see what the pelvis looks like. And then the left arm moves out to the side, and we carefully exhale the left knee over to the right side. Keeping the left shoulder on the floor, we can look back over the left shoulder. Just a nice starting twist for the spine. Good, and then release back. Then we're coming into that happy baby pose. So you take the left arm, it slides down to the inside of that left leg, and then you can reach the hand down for the outer edge of the right foot. And that knee, the left knee, comes to walk up towards the left shoulder. The left foot really flexes. So we're in half Ananda Balasana, happy baby pose. Opening the left hip flexors. Good, and then slightly release that. Keep the left knee bent. Take the belt again. Loop the belt around the sole of the left foot. And then we straighten that leg, and then you adjust the grip on the belt depending on your flexibility. So we flex the foot so you can have the belt really long. But the key is to keep the leg nice and straight. Make sure the leg is active. We can pull a kneecap here to engage the quadricep, and that helps fire up the back of the leg. We can walk the hands further up the belt if you're feeling more open. You can even take the first two fingers around the big toe. Good, and then bend the leg. Place the foot down, move the belt out of the way. Good, and then let's bring both knees into the chest, and let's rock and roll along the spine again to come up. Good. Okay, and I'm going to put my hair up. Okay, and let's bring the heels in, toes out, and we come into Malasana yogic squat. You can bring the feet quite wide. If the heels don't touch down, you can take a block under the heels just to give yourselves a bit more height. Bring your hands to your heart center. If your feet are on the floor, you can snuggle the triceps in against the inner knees, hands to the heart center. Try to lift out of the low back. Good. And from there, keeping the feet hip distance, start to straighten the legs, come onto the fingertips, half forward bend, extend the spine, look forward, exhale, really lengthen, start to fold forward, keeping that length in the spine. Good, and then slowly uncurl one vertebra at a time. And we're ready to start. So just make sure you've got the blocks. Maybe just put one either side. And we'll get started. So standing with your feet together in Tadasana, mountain pose, hands at your heart center. Extend the arms forward, reach the arms up, look up at the hands, lift out of the low back, maybe just a slight little chest opening. And release. And then we can hinge from the hips, lengthen the spine, and release into forward bend, Uttanasana. Inhale onto the fingertips, half forward bend. Exhale, releasing down. And we step back to plank pose, top of a push-up, heels back, top of the head forward, engaging your core. And let's lift the hips up and back into downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. So as always, you can bend one leg and then the other, just pedal out the feet a little bit as this is the first one. But we have already warmed up the back of the legs, so hopefully they'll be feeling a little bit more open. Really lengthen that spine, lift the inner thighs to the ceiling. And then we step the right foot forward into that low lunge, staying on the fingertips. Back nice and long, feel that back leg active. Okay, and then from here we bring the left hand flat. We reach that right arm forward as far as it will go. And then we're going to move dynamically. We're going to circle this right arm back, and as it comes back we start to straighten or bring that right leg towards straight. And then as the arm starts to come forward, we start to bend into the lunge again. So continuing like that. We circle that right arm up, we straighten the right leg. As the arm comes forward, bend into the lunge. Twice more. Open that right arm, straighten the right leg. Release into the lunge. Last time. Circle, straighten the leg. Come forward into the lunge. Good. And then right hand flat. Step back to plank pose. Keep looking forward. And this time, bring the left hand more into the centre. Turn to the outer edge of the left foot and stack the legs. Full side plank. Raise that top arm. Make sure that left shoulder is over the wrist. Lift that bottom hip. Good. And look down. Ordinary plank. And then lift the hips. Keep the heels lifted. Lift the hips. And then maybe the heels release towards the floor for downward facing dog. Good, and then we step the left foot forward, repeat that on the other side, so staying on the fingertips, lengthen the spine, reach the left arm forward, we can bring the right hand flat. As that left arm starts to circle back, we start to straighten the left leg, or towards straight, and then release back into the lunge as the arm comes forward. And again, circle the arm, straighten the left leg. As it comes forward, release into the lunge. Circle the arm, straighten the left leg. Reach forward, and the last time, open. Straighten the left leg. And then you release forward. Good, and bring the left hand flat, step back to plank pose. And now we bring the right hand more into the centre, shoulder over the wrist. We start to turn to the outer edge of the right foot. Stack the legs. Vashisthasana, full side plank. Really push the right hand into the floor so that bottom hip can lift. Good, and then release into ordinary plank. Keep the heels lifted, lift the hips. Keep lifting and lifting, and then release the heels to the floor. Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Take a couple of restorative breaths. Try to push the weight back into the legs. To take the weight out of the arms, the spine lengthens. Try not to sink the chest towards the floor so you feel like the ribs are pulling up towards the spine, and you're lengthening out of the low back. And then lift the heels and tiptoe or step the feet towards the top of the mat. Lengthen the spine halfway. Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, releasing down. full forward bend. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, hands to the heart center, good. Feet together, bend the legs, sweep the fingertips into chair pose, Utkatasana. Good, and then bring the arms forward, sit a little bit lower, hips move back. Hands to the heart center, we're coming into that twist, so we're twisting over to the right, that left tricep comes across, hands to the heart center, the hips move back, crown of the head forward, lengthening the spine, opening the right side of the chest. Really push the hands towards the heart center, give you a bit of a lever to turn. The chest is trying to lift away from the thighs. Back to center. And we change sides over to the left. Hands to the heart center again. We're opening the left side of the chest and shoulder. Chest is trying to lift away from the legs. Release back to center. And then fold over the legs, straighten the legs into Uttanasana, forward bend. Inhale onto the fingertips, half forward bend. Exhale, releasing down, bring your hands flat. Step back to plank pose. Good, and this time knees, chest and chin down. Try to bring that chest forward and down. And then we release into a gentle cobra pose, tops of the feet down. Lift the chest slightly, try to keep the shoulders away from the ears. So you're really using the strength of that low back. And then you can tuck the toes, sit the hips back towards the heels. Lift up to downward facing dog. Breathing. Trying to breathe through your nose, using your pranayama. And then we step that right foot forward, drop the back knee, staying on the fingertips, release the hips forward and down. We're going to come into a twist here first of all, so extend the left arm forward and then twist to your right, see if you can get that left tricep across the right thigh, hands to the heart center here. So we've just been doing this in chair pose. Really open the right side of the chest. Release the twists. And then for the last breath, lift up, reach the arms up. Try to lift out of the low back by getting that slight tilt of the pelvis, engaging the core. Maybe just open the chest. Good, and then release. Lift the back knee, step back to plank pose. Looking forward, dropping the knees, chest and chin down. Releasing into cobra pose, bring the shoulders back, away from the ears. And then tuck the toes, sit the hips back towards the heels, and then you can push back into downward facing dog. Breathe. Use the downward facing dog as your restorative pose to conserve your energy or restore your energy. And then we step the left foot forward. We drop the back knee to the floor, keeping the fingertips down, release the hips forward and down. And this time we reach the right arm forward, we're twisting over to the left, so bringing that right tricep across, hands to the heart center. Again, using the hands as a bit of a lever into the twist, opening the left side. Release the twist, and we lift up into the full pose, Anjaneyasana. Extend the arms, maybe the palms join, look up at the fingertips, lifting out of that low back, maybe opening the chest. Good, and releasing. Lift that back knee, step back to plank, and we come down knees, chest and chin, releasing into cobra pose, and then lift up, downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Lifting the heels, stepping or tiptoeing forward. Half forward bend on the fingertips, lengthen the spine, engage the core. Exhale into full forward bend, Uttanasana. Inhale, floating the body up, reaching up. Exhale, hands to the heart center. Good. Okay, and again, reaching up, lift up out of the low back, maybe opening the chest. And releasing, hands to the heart center as you hinge from the hips, lengthening the spine. Release into forward bend, Uttanasana. Inhale onto the fingertips, half forward bend. Exhale, releasing. Step back to plank. And let's lift the hips up and back into downward facing dog. Breathing. And then step your right foot forward. So we're going to come up into a high lunge. So really take some weight in the back leg, keep lunging in the front leg, and then we lift up. Reaching up, trying to bring the body back in alignment with the pelvis. We're taking some of the curve out of that low back. So it's a little bit of core work here, engaging the abdominals. Keep lunging. Okay, and then start to look down. Bring the body forward 45 degrees. Take hold of one of your blocks if you want to. You can rest the left hand on the block. And then we start to straighten the right leg and start to turn the body to the right. Raise that right arm up. So we're in a modified revolve triangle pose. Lengthen the spine, open, reach those right fingertips up to the ceiling. Good, and then release. Place the block to one side. Step back to plank pose. And then lift the hips up and back into Ardha Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And this time we step the left foot forward. Okay, so make sure that back leg feels strong. We're engaging it here. And then we lift up into high lunge. If you need to bend the back leg first of all to find that alignment, that's fine. Really engage your core, pelvic tilt slightly, lengthening the low back. And then you aim towards straightening the back leg, keeping those qualities, lunging into the front leg, reaching the fingertips to the ceiling. Good, and then we start to lean forward 45 degrees. You can take hold of one of your blocks, push the right hand into the block, straighten the left leg, coming to that modified revolve triangle. We start to turn to the left, reach the left arm up, try to keep feeling like the left hip crease is moving back, lengthen the spine, open the chest. forward and then release, bend into the front leg, place the block to one side. Let's just step the right foot to meet the left. Coming onto the fingertips, half forward bend. Exhale into full forward bend, Uttanasana. Inhale, floating the body up, reach the arms up. Exhale, hands to the heart center. One more standing sequence and then we're coming down to try working towards the splits. Okay, so feet together, reach the arms up, lift up, keep lifting. So this is the action. If you were in full split, you really need to be lifting that body. Maybe lift out of the low back, open the chest. Release, hands to the heart center, start to hinge at the hips, lengthening the spine. Releasing into that forward bend, Uttanasana. Inhale onto the fingertips, half forward bend. Exhale, releasing down, hands flat. Step back to plank pose. Drop the knees, chest and chin. Release into cobra pose, shoulders back, away from the ears, chest through. And then sit the hips back towards the heels, tuck the toes, push back into downward facing dog. Breathe. We're going to step the right foot forward. Drop that back foot. It's 45-degree angle, so the toes point up to the top left corner of the mat. It's heel to heel alignment with the feet. And then we lift up. So we're coming into Warrior 1, Virabhadrasana 1. The hip points are pointing forward, so you need to move the right hip back, left hip forward. And the angle of that back foot really helps with that. You're pushing the outer edge of the left foot into the floor. Raise the arms up, look up at the hands. Reaching the fingertips to the ceiling, maybe you join the palms. Lunge a little bit deeper into that front leg if you can. Good, and release, start to straighten that front leg. Okay, so then bring that back foot in a couple of inches. Maybe bring the feet about hip distance so you feel quite stable with the legs, because we're going to come into revolve triangle in a moment. So first of all, keep the hands on the hips, feel the hip bones pointing forward. You can almost take the hands to the crease of the right hip to encourage it to move back. As we hinge forward, we lengthen the spine. And then take hold of both blocks if you want to. You can push the fingertips or the hands into the blocks and work on moving that right hip back. So if you were to take a block to the sacrum, hopefully it's going to stay there and you feel like the pelvis is even. That's what we're aiming for. If you're feeling a little bit more open, you can walk the fingertips forward, start to lengthen the body over the leg. Again, keeping the pelvis aligned. So the sensation is in the front leg, but the back leg should be active as well. And that helps you to lengthen that spine over the front leg. And really that's the same qualities of Hanumanasana or splits when we get there. The sensation feels like it's in the front leg, but the back leg, the hip flexors are working really hard. So you need to be mindful about both legs. Okay, and now we're going to come into revolve triangle pose. So I'd recommend keeping the block on the right side, the outer edge of the right foot. You can always turn it up the tall way. We first of all, everyone take the right hand to the right hip crease. Just manually move the hip crease back. Lengthen the left arm forward, lengthen the spine. Twist over to the right, bring the left hand to the block. We open the chest and maybe that right arm lifts up. So it's a twist, it's a balance. We're lengthening the spine, revolving open, the right hip crease, so moving back, the inner thighs are scissoring towards each other. And release. Let's place the blocks away for a moment, bend into the front leg, step back to plank, and let's just lift the hips up and back into downward facing dog. Take a breath, and then step your left foot forward, drop the back foot, that heel to heel alignment with the feet. We lift up into Warrior One, Virabhadrasana 1, take the hands to the hips, feel the hip bones pointing forward, outer edge of the right foot firmly pushing into the floor. And then maybe you reach the arms up, join the palms, keep reaching. Good. Okay, and then release, straighten the front leg. Step that back foot in a few inches, make sure the legs feel stable, and then we hinge forward, the body comes parallel to the floor, that left hip crease keeps moving back. You can take both hands to blocks and just work there. Take some weight into that back leg, feel some sensation. You can walk the fingertips forward and fold over the left leg, keeping that left hip crease moving back. Good, and then lift up halfway. Take a block to the outer edge of the left foot, the medium or the tall way. Left hand to the left hip crease, manually move it back. Lengthen that right arm forward, keep reaching, and then we twist over to the left. Right hand comes to the block. We keep lengthening the spine, open to the left, and then maybe that left arm reaches up. Reach the fingertips to the sky. Feel like the inner thighs are scissoring together, the left hip crease moves back. Breathing. Good, and then release. Take the blocks to one side. And let's just step the right foot to meet the left. Half forward bend, lengthen the spine, and then exhale, full forward bend. Good. And let's just carefully come down onto our knees and sit back. Okay, so finally we've made it towards the Hanumanasana sequence. So as I said, if this is the first time you've done this 4-part series, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to get into splits. That would be a bit far-fetched, but if you do it consistently, this practice, you will get there. It might take a while, it could take a year, but if you really want to get there, it's a nice goal to have. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we will need both blocks about halfway down the mat. We come up onto our knees. Let's take the left leg forward. Let's come into the half splits first of all. So take the blocks, flex the right foot, lengthen the spine, so that's key. So I see a lot of people in my classes and they start to, their back legs, the hamstrings are still quite tight, and they think they've got to fold forward and they're rounding the spine and trying to force it, and it's just not really achieving anything doing that. So it's much better to stay really quite upright while you're still working on the flexibility, and just work on keeping the spine as long as possible. And then as you start to build up your flexibility, you can maybe walk the blocks forward and start to lengthen the body over that right leg. But the right foot is really active. You imagine you are pushing it against the wall. The right heel feels like it's energetically moving back towards the right hip, and you're lengthening the spine. Okay, and then you can obviously pause it there and just work a bit longer on that if you want to. Then, as we're already here, start to walk the blocks back. And then the key is to not just concentrate on one leg, so we need to think about the back leg as well. So I like to bend both legs, see how that feels, and then maybe you can walk the back leg back an inch, and then the front leg can wiggle forward. You keep walking the blocks back in alignment with the hips, and then stop when it just feels enough. So you can keep both legs bent. Maybe some people will start to work back a little bit further. We're trying to keep the hips even, so the right hip and the left hip. Some people might feel like it's easier to kind of lean to the side, but we don't really want to do that. That's like the cheerleaders kind of pose. We want to lift, and eventually we might come all the way down into the splits. But this is, once you're there, you can see why we were doing that core work and the chest opening, because you really need to be active and lifted. Okay, and then very carefully, if you're in the full splits, slide out, whichever version you're in. Swing the right leg back. It's not really a particularly elegant way to come out. Sit back on the heels for a moment. So how did that feel? Okay, so we'll try that sequence on the other side. So first of all, come up onto the right knee. We extend the left leg forward. Flex the foot. If you're staying quite upright, flex the foot. Really work on looking past the foot and lengthening the spine. Don't worry at all about folding forward. That won't really get you anywhere. But if you are feeling more open, you can walk the hands forward. Keep flexing the foot, making sure that leg's really active, and then fold over the left leg. Okay, so again you can pause that there and work a little bit more there. Now take hold of both blocks, if you haven't already. Keep the back toes tucked under so it's easier to walk the foot back. So maybe bend into that front leg. Keep walking that back leg back a little bit. See how that feels. Bring the blocks back in alignment with the hips more. You can have the blocks obviously the tallest way as well. And then maybe that front leg straightens a little bit more. Keep walking the back leg back. This is my tighter side, so I'm not going to come down fully at the moment. See how that feels, really remembering to engage the core here. Feel the sensation in the back leg as well as the front leg. Breathing. Good, and then when you've had enough, carefully lift out, swing that left leg back. Okay, so how did that feel? So if you've want to just try once more, we can try a slightly different variation with either the blocks or the bolster under the hips. It's just slightly different. So I don't think I'll use the bolster actually. But if you were using the bolster, you would have it widthways. So maybe start off by placing 2 blocks in the middle of the mat, and let's extend the right leg forward first of all, and then you probably just need to adjust the blocks so that you can come down, so you feel challenged but you can rest the blocks. Just find the right position under the hips. Okay, and see how that feels. And then that just gives you the sensation of trying to align the pelvis, lift out of the low back. If that feels okay, you could then maybe drop 1 block away, maybe turn the block up the medium way and work slightly lower. So it really helps in this variation to align the pelvis. And then eventually maybe again you take both blocks or the bolster away and you feel a bit more warmed up or prepared for the full splits, Hanumanasana. Good, and then release. Okay, and then the last side, the left side. Get the blocks onto the right knee, extend the left leg forward this time, and then just try to align the hips, or align the blocks under the hips so that you feel supported. Once you're there, see how that feels. Thinking about lifting out of the low back, engaging the core. And maybe take 1 block away. See how that feels. Take both blocks away, or just leave it there for now. I think I will. Okay. So well done everyone. Just to finish, bring your heels together, knees out wide. Keep the bottom glued to the heels, and then just lengthen the arms forward into an extended child's pose. Breathe into the back of the lungs. Feel the spine lengthening. Breathing deeply. And then when you're ready, slowly start to come up. Come into your Sukhasana or half lotus or full lotus, just to close off the practice. So well done, you made it in the 4-part journey to Hanumanasana. Hopefully some of you have got a little bit further with your journey than you have done previously. And as I say, if that is a real goal of yours, with consistency and the right motivation, I'm pretty confident that you will get there. So I hope you've enjoyed this 4-part series and practice it as many times as you want to. Namaste. See you again soon. Thank you. Bye.